Hi guys, this is Liz with 143 Handmade, and I'm here today to do the stitching on one of these folios. I'm taking you through the whole process of, not brand new, but whole book to finished product. And let's see, last time you might remember these papers were like really floppy and everything, so I just added a few clips here and there to help hold everything together. Just to help me remember what my plan was too, where I was going to sew everything. So my first step is I just take one of the pockets, not including these half pages. This has to be the last step. But I will take one of these. Let me see. Okay. And just set it in here and run my stitch along here, and I try and kind of go like kind of wonky, see, curved and whatnot. I don't try and make it straight because it's not going to be straight whether I try or not, so I might as well embrace the wonk. And see, I just kind of did a curved corner there, and I have it on a nice big stitch because I don't want to perforate the paper a lot. And there we go. And this could be a standalone pocket right here, just this, the pocket here, here, and here, and that could just be glued onto the page for any number of ways. It could be bound in any number of ways, but you might notice I have pink in the bobbin and I have teal at the top, and it will show, the different colors will show at different times. So now I set that aside. I'm going to go ahead and take these middle ones and just set those aside and grab my other pocket. And get it under there and do the same thing. Super simple if you're comfortable with the sewing machine, sewing paper. If you're not, you can, everywhere that I'm sewing right now can totally be secured with glue. You do not have to sew it. This is just my process that I'm sharing, and but if you don't have a sewing machine, not comfortable using it on paper or whatever the case may be, just secure your edges, the same edges, with glue, with your favorite securing medium, double-sided tape, glue, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead and move that out of my way a little bit. And then what I will do, where's my other cover? Sorry about that. I need the cover that I'm going to put it in too. So what I did is on one of these, I covered it in book page because I really didn't like some of the imagery that was on there, and I just wanted to cover it up. And then this one I covered with just some gesso on the inside. So that's the two different covers. And I'll grab my clips, get them out of the way. So one of the things that I do, which I know I told you to glue this already, and that's how I did them all, but it would actually be easier to do the sewing part if you did not glue this yet. And I'll show you why here in just a second. Because see, as you're sewing along, if you sew across here, you're just going to sew that flap down, and that's how it works. So you now have to stop and start every time at this corner. So, but that's what I'm going to do is I just like to just running a stitch all the way around the whole outside. This is totally decorative at this point. Well, I guess it does serve a little bit of a function on these flaps. This part that I have folded down, it now, holds that down. So, but it is primarily decorative, these stitches. Go ahead and speed that up a bit. There we go, now we're trucking along. Okay, I'm going to stop before I get to my curve, or my not curve, but my flappy here. I'll flip it over, cut my thread, take it out, flip the flap over, and start again. And I do it with the flaps out the first time around. So that way the flaps get that decorative edge on the outer edge. That'll make sense in a minute if you don't know what I mean. It's sometimes hard to keep track of all the different angles and what's going to be outside where and when and all of that. But you will understand, you'll see it happen every step of the way. And see, we're coming up on that little ripped area. I'm going to slow it down. I'm just going to go right over the top of that ripped area. And now it's somewhat reinforced with just that thread, let alone everything else I'm going to do to this thing. Okay, so now what I do is I flip my flaps in, making sure that I know which fold I want them on. Okay. And then just pick a corner and start sewing with the flaps now down in their closed position. And again, when I come up to this valley, I'm going to make sure to stop. And see, and I didn't bother to do this upper area because there's no attachment point there. But by having done that around first, you know, I now have this decorative edge here. Okay, but because this one, it's attached on both sides, I'm going to start here and go all the way around in that U shape. So, here's Miss Secret. I'm going to join us and say hello. Just for half a second, huh? And see here, you could just sew off, cut your thread, and then start again over here. I like to go ahead and add that detail. I could do that on this side too. I think I will. Add the sewing detail all the way up. There we go. Turn again. And we are almost done. So I promise I will get better with the voiceovers so that way I can do some of this in, you know, fast time. So you don't have to watch every single second. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just do all the way around on this one too. Just because I like it. I think it looks pretty. And it'll put that same decorative element down the side of both sides. And I think it'll kind of help hold this pocket because of how many times I did refold it along here. By sewing along that kind of helps, you know, hold that in. Okay, and so now we have this, and it's, you know, secured. Those flappies are secured. And we have our two individual pockets and our two, these guys. Now, what I like to do is go ahead and relay everything. Move this other guy out of the way. Better. There we go. Lay these down the way that I want them. So I want the half pockets to just be the center. And so I want both of these to lay face down at this point. And then what I do is I grab these guys back up. And I decide, you know, which of those flappies which page is going to be anchored to this. So this time I'm going to anchor the front page. So I take that one off because this is a texty page that will remind me not to, you know, that part is not the important bit. Okay, and again, I'm just going to run my stitches up and around, just to get those stitches across the front fold area, which I will not be able to reach once I actually start anchoring everything together. Won't be able to get that under the sewing machine, so. There we go. And then, let's see, do I want to go ahead? Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and flip it over, and I'm just going to run a line down the front of this. So like I said, I will not be able to reach this here in just a minute with the sewing machine after I anchor this to the other page. Okay. and then just lay this on top of this one. You know, tuck this, because this is going to be, okay, like this, to go with my folds. So this is going to sit like this. And this is the other one like so. So this is going to sit on here like this, and if it helps, go ahead and grab a clamp. I don't usually. I'll just make sure that this is away from that edge ever so slightly. Not a lot though, because the folio is already sewn. Okay. And then I just start from here, and I go all the way around one more time. And it adds that decorative element all the way around, as well as anchoring the two together. But it puts that second line of stitching out here as well. And I think that second line of stitching really adds something. I think I need to give my sewing machine a good thorough cleaning. It's just getting kind of clunky. So there we go. Just kind of zigzagging it on over. And then, oh, I did forget that I needed to go all the way around on that instead of just in the U shape to close all of these edges off. But again, that's personal preference. This is just how I do it. You know, you can secure that with glue if you want instead of the stitching. That would totally work. And I like to flip it over to do the second line of stitching along here. Just to, you know, get that variation in thread color. There we go. Yeah, like so. And so now we have this completed piece, which lays right here. And this piece, which will go like so. Now this is the trickiest bit of the whole operation, and you can totally do this with glue if you want, but I prefer to get the sewing lines in there. Okay, but again, I need to, let's see, how did I get the stitch lines on that, or did I? Okay, here, this is how I'm gonna get the stitch lines on there, on that front edge. Just run this through. Really crank that baby through. And then flip it over so I get that variation in thread color. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this down. Which, because it will still totally be hidden inside of there now, see? But because this stitch line, it can't go all the way up. Can't go all the way in. And you could totally take off that paper if you're worried about the weight. You know, it would be that many fewer layers for you and all that. Okay, so now I have the stitch lines there. So we've got our little, let me make sure I'm in frame really good. Okay, so we've got our little flappy here. Now here's the tricky bit. I like to go ahead and get this piece on here where I want it. And this is one area where I really do use clamps. I don't use a lot of clamps because I don't really mind messy things. But this is not about messy. This is about, you know, keeping hold of everything. Okay, so now I've opened this piece that I prepared. I'm putting it over the top of that. So we've got our little zigzag here of the cover. And we've got this piece from the other page are going to be sandwiched in. And then also making sure that everything is facing the same way. gotta undo this clip for a second. Okay, so that's where it's set up. Okay, I'm gonna put the pink one at the top so I don't get confused. Okay, put this over like this, making sure those pockets are up, because that would obviously matter quite a bit. Okay. And like so. And then, okay. So playing like this. And then I clamp it here with my thumb, you know, pick it up right here. Let those covers fall down, lay that down, then bring this forward. Okay, and now I'm going to start sewing right here in this corner and come out. And go all the way around. If my thread does. It's a little bit on the fast side for how many layers I got going on here. So I'm going to go ahead and slow that down a bit. Okay, that's a little slow. Ease it into the middle here. There we go. I know that's why most people use a foot pedal. I'm just not comfortable. And I mean, I'm sure I could master it eventually. I just haven't yet. Make sure we're going real slow. Coming up on this bottom edge here. Okay, there we go. And then because it's paper, this can curl and still fit up under here. And I'm going to pick up the speed just a bit again. And my thread broke. Okay. Alright. And so since it was already not, you know, not threaded anymore anyways, I'm going to go ahead and just come back at it from, well no, I need to keep going that same way. So that way I keep track of where all it's anchored and where it's not. Okay, slow it down some and that should help. I mean, I don't want to go too slow, but that was obviously a little bit fast for it with all of these layers. And that is something I do highly recommend, is using a heavy duty needle and going slow. A heavy duty sharp needle. When you're trying to figure out how to sew through so many layers. I think that's very important. Okay. There we go. And now that is anchored. See that? And in order to get the other color on there, we go across right along in here with, you know, flipped over the other way. And I'm just about out of that upper thread right here at the end of this folio, which is kind of cool. Kind of like it when the thread runs out at the same time the project is done. Way better than in the middle. You know, and I'll go back in and I'll, you know, trim up any threads that I feel like I need to and all of that. But take our clips off, and here we go. And you might need to refold it, you know, just a little bit, because I mean, you did do a lot of sewing on it. You know, the paper shifted a little during that sewing process. You added stuff to it and everything else, so here we go. Finished folio. And then I'm going to do essentially the same things. Well, it's the same steps. It's all the same steps to this folio here. But I'm not going to, you know, it's already 20 minutes to do the one, so, because I'm trying to, you know, keep it where you guys can see everything. But you can see the only significant difference between these two, as far as the prep goes, was that I inked these pages while they were loose. I just find that a little easier than trying to ink it once it's all put together. So, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, I did want to show this real quick. As far as the steps for sewing goes, is I have this extra pocket here that I want to put on the front. And see, I added just a dab of glue across here because I didn't want to try and clamp that in. And so it's important to remember when you're doing that, if you want to sew on an inside edge like this, that you need to do it before you sew to anything else. You know? So I'm just going to do this little piece, and I think that will be all of my turquoise thread pretty much. Nope, not quite. And yes, it's wonkified because now I have this outline that I can use, and I can do it the other way and get that pink to be on the you know, on the cover with it. There we go. See, there we go. And see, now it's got both colors. And it doesn't matter that some of, you know, some of this pink is off and some of that, you know, none of that matters. Okay. And then, so let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and do this part, and then I will zip, you know, make it go fast in the editing. So, as you can see, this one's basically, you know, to the same point as I was with that one, but I'm going to add lace to this one. So this is the stage I'm going to add lace to it, but that'll be in the next video. So, thank you so much for joining me, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I can't tell you how much I appreciate every single moment with you.